OnEducation's ISTE coverage is brought to you by TeacherGaming. TeacherGaming has over 30 games and lesson plans that you can use in your classroom tomorrow. Simply go to TeacherGaming.com and you can hop on a call with the TeacherGaming crew and find out how you can bring games into your classroom with their help. As a thank you for your time, they will give you a 30-day free trial. So go to TeacherGaming.com for more information.
Not really passionate about the World Cup itself. You know, Mike said, is it about bringing the world together? And I said, no, it's about Mexico winning.
All right, welcome to our first ISTE special episode of OnEducation. I am Mike Washburn.
And I'm Glen Irvin.
And we also have special guests with us for the whole show, friend of the pod, first two-time guest.
Yes.
Noah Geisel. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks. It's awesome to be here for the whole time. Excited to riff with you guys.
This is fun.
It's super awesome.
So,
yeah, this is the first time we're actually face-to-face.
Here all together.
Exactly. Usually Mike and I are recording in digital lives there.
Yep.
And it's, I think it's actually...
This has been fun.
It's actually strange, like, being in the same room. Usually we can, like, do our own thing, you know, in our own space or whatever it might be. And so now we have to, like, semi-pay attention to what we're doing here as we go through it, as we're looking at each other. So, yeah, super excited to be together.
Yes.
And for this whole entire series that we're about to go ahead and do.
So we're going to do, like we've talked about before, 5 shows, 30-minute shows. We're going to have an hour show like normal. But today we're going to be talking about Badge Summit and a bunch of stuff. But first we should talk about the World Cup. Because the World Cup is on, allegedly.
Yes, the World Cup is my super passion. Actually, I'm not really passionate about the World Cup itself. You know, Mike said, is it about bringing the world together? And I said, no, it's about Mexico winning. Because that's all I really care about right now.
Is Mexico actually going to win the World Cup, though?
No, but they already made it to the next round,
and they got fined already,
which is awesome.
too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, so, there's actually a really controversial...
Like for diving?
No.
Because that's what actually
Bullying.
happens.
Yes. It's actually a present tissue to schools. It's about bullying.
Yes, exactly. It's a controversial thing that and every single time the goalkeeper on the opposing team kicks the ball, right?
Okay.
There's a tradition, and it carries, doesn't matter where you're at, you know, what stadium, wherever you're at. If you are a Mexican fan and you're in the stands, you yell out this thing, which is inappropriate. Well, I mean, it's not only inappropriate, it's a vulgar word.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So they've actually they've gotten fined. The FIFA Federation has fined them. But anyway, Mexico is advancing to the next round. Yes. And
terrible.
I was going to just say that as a Mexican American, the only really controversial thing is when Mexico plays the United States, and then it really tears at my soul. And, you know, people ask me from both sides of my family, my American side family and the Mexican side, who am I actually cheering for?
Cheering for Mexico.
No, actually,
You're wearing a Mexican jersey.
Yes, but I actually do. I cheer for the underdog, and that's always the United States. So I do cheer for the United States when they play each other.
No one's cheering for Iceland. No, you want to cheer for...
You could play coy and say you're cheering for El-Tri,
El-Tri.
and you're technically kind of rooting for both of them.
Yes.
Play coy.
I'm cheering for Iceland.
Are you?
Yeah. They deserve some
something.
love, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not cheering for anybody. I haven't followed it at all. So I heard they tied, right? Argentina or Venezuela or something. They tied someone. It was a big deal.
Iceland.
Iceland.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you've heard about this, right?
Yeah. I like the chant because we borrowed it for the Vikings fans. So I do like that chant. Yes.
Exactly.
So
World Cup.
yes.
Exciting times. Even more exciting than the World Cup is where we've been all day today. This is
amazing.
Saturday at the Badge Summit. So when we come back, we will take a deeper dive into the Badge Summit with Noah.
OnEducation is brought to you by Audible. Mike, what have you been reading lately? And I suppose you're kind of like me, where you have quite a few books that you have on your list.
I have too many books on my list. I have probably about 40 audiobooks on my queue, and between listening to podcasts and audiobooks, I am well stocked. Lots of cool books are on Audible, hundreds and thousands of titles, and you can get your own audiobook download for free if you go to audibletrial.com/oneducation. That's audibletrial.com/oneducation, and you can get a free audiobook download. You should go do that, like, right now.
Okay, welcome back. So, Badge Summit, we've been here all day on Saturday at Columbia College in Chicago. It was a pretty impressive gathering of thought leaders, amazing educators talking about achievements and badges and credentials in education. And Noah is here with us. And Noah, this is your thing. This is your baby. And man, incredibly well run. The one thing that I noticed being here was this is not ISTE. This is not even like I was stunned at the types of discussions, the discourse in the groups and in the panels. This was like a room full of just wicked smart people. That's all I could think about the whole time I was here. I was listening to people talk, and the questions and the comments were just, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe how many smart people were in the same small space all together. Yes. What do you think? I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we've fostered this just community, right? That people who are drawn to this space right now of digital badges and micro-credentials tend to be passionate people and tend to be people who are driven by things like equity, not because it's this buzzword that's going through our schools, but because it's really, really important that we get serious about it and do something yesterday. Yes. And so, just by the very nature of who's drawn to it, the passion, you have a lot of people who really are accustomed to working collaboratively and without ego and humbly. Lots of people who, even when they're reaching expert status, bring a beginner's mindset and constantly learning. And so that, I think that's what, when I was in RuneState, that was a lot of what I was seeing was, like you said, wicked smart people. And for some people who aren't necessarily always playing in the digital badge credential sandbox, really smart people who came and were like, whoa, there's actually a lot that I have to learn here. Yeah, and that was really neat to have these people who, are kind of like famous in our world coming up and saying, wow, like this really pushed my thinking.
Yes. It was wild. Speaking of actually going like deep, taking the deep dives. So we were at this panel at lunch and I'm typing away, working on the outline actually, and I'm listening. And I'm good at this multi-track listening thing, and then all of a sudden I can't remember the woman's name. You would know who I'm talking about, but she just went like boom into the ground deep on things like blockchain and access structure and digital footprints, and talking about like 32 gig badge files, and I stopped and I was like, whoa, this is deep. Yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe how complex it was, and I love complexity. I'm a person that will always take like, why use 5 words when you can use 10, which is the opposite of almost everybody.
That's how you work so well.
I guess so. But I do think that this is one of those things, and I think that this was actually shared a lot in the summit, at least in some of the things I heard, that the summit was tailored for deep thinkers, at least it seemed like it was. This has to be then translated into simplicity for people to actually, end up doing it, especially people who don't necessarily take to new things very well, or aren't in the space to be thinking deeply about this, just want to engage their kids. Yeah. So what I would love is for our listeners to get kind of the barrier-free, simple explanation of badging, but also, where do we start? Where does the teacher that isn't here and doesn't typically engage in the deep thought of blockchain and technical limitations of this, where do they start to actually like do this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love that sort of bias towards action that you have there, right? This isn't about let's plan, let's talk about how let's perfect it out, before we've done it. Let's execute. Let's like dive in and do this stuff, right, and scrape up our knees and elbows and get messy with it. And I think that's the biggest thing is to get started, right? Okay. Forget getting ready and just get started. and dive right in. I think that, at the risk of scaring people with some of that deeply technical stuff that Mike was talking about, I was kind of geeking out on it.
Yeah, I was too.
And there was also technical stuff I didn't understand, so which is a great, kind of segue to say that really super technical stuff. You could get deeply engrossed in this work and never have to think about that if you don't want to. That's a technical side. That the vendors are taking care of that. You don't really have to think about it. What you need to think about is your why. And the why is not for you, it's for your users. So if you're working with teachers and doing this in professional development, if you're working in your class with your students, it's thinking about that student who's going to raise her hand and say, Mister, why should I care about your stupid badges? Yeah. And if your best answer that you have to offer her is because you should be intrinsically motivated to learn, you've lost her right there, right? And so you need to have a better why than that, and you need to have a really powerful why. And if you don't have a powerful why, that might be a get ready stage. Maybe you shouldn't be getting started just yet. Yes. Figure out the why, and from there, I think we'll really be able to see, momentum.
Yes, no, it totally makes sense. And I was just thinking about, as I was listening to both the high-end, people talking really super technical stuff, but also just people being practical, that it's such a fascinating space and something that, as you guys were just describing, that it's happening right now and we need to get into this. And even if we're still, like I heard somebody say, it's okay if it's going to be messy. Trying to figure this out, because there's so many different things still kind of up in the air, but that doesn't mean that should stop us from moving forward. And then kind of, it's okay to fail. That's what we always tell our students is we can learn from the lessons and then be able to go ahead and proceed from that. I could see that in the whole conference, though. Everybody's really taking hold of that and then being able to go ahead and say, okay, this is what we're going to be doing with this, with the concept of badging and micro-credentialing.
So I thought about, so there's two websites, companies, whatever you want to call them, that I'm familiar with that I think would make this really easy for people. I thought about Schoology. Schoology has badges, and you can make your own badges all within that system. So I feel like that, you may agree or not, but that seems like a really barrier-free entry for teachers if you're using Schoology. But also, I thought about Classcraft as well, and you had them on that panel. And they have achievements and badges, and it's pretty barrier-free to get into that as well. Those seem like really easy ways, like that are actually ways that you couldn't screw that up. Like you could, right? Well, I mean, that's a fear of teachers, right? Teachers are afraid of.
Like Mozilla Open Badges is something that you can use right now, currently, right?
There's a ton of options out there on the vendor side, and I'd say that most of them are going to be pretty, easy on-ramps for most teachers. If you know how to use email,
right,
you probably are going to be able to figure out pretty quickly how to create and issue digital badges. Yeah. And so, I encourage folks to not get too caught up in what you're going to use platform-wise.
Okay.
You could do it with pieces of paper.
Sure you could.
You know what I mean? You don't have to do it digital if you don't want to. There are definitely transformative differences when we talk about things like digital badges, and especially when we talk about things like open badges, because they're portable and they're owned by the badge earner. Yeah. But for a teacher who's just looking to get started and figure out what does this need to do in order to be great for my learners? How do I ensure that I'm meeting my people's needs? I think really it's more about process than it is about
the specific product.
Yeah, than the product, than the vendor side. I think that there's, the vendors are going to be, definitely different in their own unique and special ways. And it's easy enough to just reach out to them for a demo or go on their website and watch a video. I think the biggest thing is really to figure out, why are my users going to care? And, what is this going to look like? And I think the biggest place to fail in a way that isn't the good kind of fail, where it's like, I'm done with this, is to start bigger than you need to.
Sure, biting off more than you can chew.
And it can very quickly become more than you can chew. And so I really encourage people to start, maybe not even with a class, but with a handful of students, a breakout group of students, because
Or a club
you
or
could
something.
so quickly find yourself just in an unsustainable place where something you're trying to do for your learners turns into, just this 25 hours slog of going through and looking at evidence and validating and, issuing or declining badges. And, that's a great, kind of speed bump to look out for, because it's going to be so
I
frustrating.
haven't even really thought of it that way.
I was thinking about too. I mean, just to go ahead and say, like, okay, so teachers out there, they're listening to this. I know that there's a chat that they can go ahead and you guys do it on a weekly basis.
Yeah, every Monday from 6:30 to 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. And it's hashtag
Badge Chat.
Yeah.
All one word, and it is just a super open, vulnerable, safe community for people to, just throw out, hey, this is what I'm doing, can I get feedback?
Yes.
Or, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, what do people think about this? And we've had people, develop something that they've done for 2 weeks, and right away they're willing to share it with other people, and maybe what they did was kind of not that great, but somebody else is able to take it, and 2 weeks later
Riff
they're
on it.
like, they fork it, right, and they do
Sure.
their own really awesome
Yeah.
thing. And so we've just built this community of people where it's safe. You don't have people, with egos and making it about them, and it's just one of the safest chats that I've been a part of on Twitter. And it's just a great place to learn and share, and we have a lot of people who just work, and we valued that as a form of engagement. You can get a badge chat working badge.
which is awesome. That's actually a really good way to participate in chats in general. So next year, are you ready to look at that?
Yeah, right now I'm looking at.
You're just trying to recover.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to go to sleep for
Yes.
probably 20 hours.
Yes.
This is a lot of work. Yeah, I haven't had time to think about next year. I know enough to know that ISTE is in Philadelphia next year, and that it's proven to be a really great model for us to basically follow ISTE and do badge summit the day before. So I would anticipate that next year we'll be in ISTE the Saturday right before, or we'll be in Philly the Saturday. ISTE starts Sunday. We'll be there Saturday. If any of your listeners are in the Philly area and have ideas around host sites that are really awesome, like we've got some pretty sweet digs here at Columbia College
this was
Chicago.
awesome.
Beautiful place.
And just play anything that's weird, that's awesome. I think that's something you really hit on, Mike. I mean, this conference is definitely trying to be something in an age where so many people are saying, I don't know if I need face-to-face conferences anymore. I don't know if I get anything from going to these panels.
Yeah.
And then, Badge Summit, and hopefully we're not overly tooting our own horn here, but there is this different vibe going on where people
totally.
are saying, I'm going to the panels. I'm not here just to network in the hallways because I've been there, done that. Like, people are actually going to sections and being like mind blown because somebody out there who they've never even heard of is doing awesome stuff and sharing it, even though it's still basically in beta.
Nice.
That being said, though, it's funny that we were talking, Mike Matera and Glen and I sat over here for at least an hour and a half just chatting, and we wouldn't have been able to do that. We're not going to be able to do that at ISTE. And it's not the environment, but it wasn't like just random stuff. We were having some sort of discussions, and it was awesome.
And Michael had said that too, that he felt like there's a different pace to something like this where you can really feel like you can connect to people and spend the time to make those true connections versus the go kind of feel of an ISTE.
And there's not this is really the people who are here. This is about the work, right? This is about changing the world.
Yeah.
And so, without being overly, I guess, kind of bullying on other conferences, you just don't have people whose number one motivation to have engage with you is to self-promote. Right, the folks who are here in order to get ideas, to seek help, to bounce ideas off of other people, and to seek collisions that are going to lead to future collaborations. And so maybe I'm just full of our community and giving it more credit than it deserves, but to me it just feels way more about working together to try and change the world, where you even have on the vendor side companies that are competitors. who are, inviting each other to be moderators together on the same panel. You know what I mean? So it does feel like we're in this sort of unique space, and hopefully it stays like that for longer than not.
Awesome. Okay, so when we come back, we are going to get ourselves all geared up for first day of ISTE tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Friends, On Podcast Media is getting set to launch not one, but 2 new podcasts this summer. And we're excited to tell you about the first one, On Politics. On Politics is hosted by politician, professor, and human rights lawyer Craig Scott. On Politics will take deep dives into policy and politics. You definitely come away learning something every week. To stay up to date with On Politics, follow the show's Twitter account, @OnPoliticsPod.
All right, guys, welcome back. ISTE starts tomorrow.
Woo!
And so we are all going to be there, and we're going to just maybe run through a couple quick things that we're interested in, maybe one each or something like that, and then a couple other things. So I'm pretty pumped about the People's Choice, the crowdsourced sessions. So these are sessions that didn't get in, chosen by the moderators or the panel or the board or whatever. Then there was like a voting thing, and people could apply to be voted on by the peers, and there was kind of a democratized sourcing for this, and there's some interesting things there that I'm gonna go and see. I can't remember the names of all of them off the top of my head, but I was looking through the list today, and I'm pretty pumped about that. What are you jacked up about there?
I'm excited. I work with teachers now, so there's this thing the session called Peer-Led PD, and it says tapping into faculty talent and expertise, and that's, to me, if they're bringing that, I'm going to be so happy. Whatever they're going to give me as far as that, because I really think that a lot of times we don't look within our own walls at all of the wonderful things that are happening, and then encourage those teachers and bring them out, and not just teachers, but administration, whoever might be within your structures, and then bring them into the fold and say, hey, show us what you've got, and then we can all learn from you too. I think I'd also build some definite cohesiveness and confidence in teachers in being able to do that in other places too.
Noah, anything you're geeked up about for tomorrow?
Absolutely. And for me, the poster sessions are a great part of ISTE. It's a way to almost capture, 5 or 6 sessions, if you will, in a single hour.
Yeah.
And so, and you also get some really amazing, talented people. And you can, as opposed to what oftentimes is 50 minutes of sit and get, it's a chance for this, sometimes you go to a poster and you get a one-on-one conversation with somebody who you've known for years, or somebody who you're, just hearing it for the first time. And so the poster sessions are really cool for me. Another thing, especially for folks who are listening to this podcast who aren't at ISTE, is to check out the hashtag #PassTheScopeEDU.
Oh.
And it's a whole community of folks, some of whom were here today: Valerie, Lewis, Brian, Smith Romero, Claudio Zavala, all these great folks who are going to be going all around ISTE and live streaming it on Periscope. Awesome. And so if you were unable to travel, if you, just didn't, unable to get the funding to get in to ISTE, #PassTheScopeEDU hashtag is a great way to kind of democratize, to steal your word, access to some of that learning.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just the hashtag not at ISTE or not at ISTE 18 to make sure that we're sharing
yes.
Just like real good tidbits of anything that we actually get, or share resources, with that we access or whatever it might be.
Yeah, totally. So if you're listening to this right away on Sunday afternoon when we publish it, you should know that we are going to be hanging out at Batterbrow Brewery at 2515 South Wabash Avenue. I think we're going to start around 8 o'clock. We're just going to hang out. It's not anything special. There's no open bar, unfortunately, or anything anything like that.
We have stickers.
We have stickers, guys.
Stickers.
That
But
is.
there is a bar.
It exists there.
1 out of 2.
And we have stickers.
We have stickers. If you want an OnEducation sticker, you can come and get one, and we would be happy to give you one and have a pint with us and just hang out, and that would be a absolute blast. I'm really also pumped to chat with Randall Sampson tomorrow, so we're gonna be chatting with him, and we will have that on the Monday podcast. We got so many things going on, and this is absolutely the start of a pretty wicked week, I think. So I think that we're gonna wrap it up.
Yes. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Noah,
Thank you so much.
thanks.
Woo, we did it.
Loud handshakes.
Yes.
This has been a blast. Stay tuned for the next episode when we come back on. I guess that would be Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday.
All right.
We'll see you guys then.
Ciao.
Bye. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
OnEducation is an on-podcast media production. My name is Mike Washburn. My co-host is Glen Irvin. You can get in touch with us or ask us questions to answer on air by visiting our website, oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at OnEducationPod. Glen is at Irv Spanish on Twitter. I can be found on Twitter at Mr. Washburn. Our sound engineer is Jake Codeweiss. He's on Twitter at JK Radio. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/oneducationpod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be honored if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or the Google Play Store. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Schoology, for supporting us. Check out Schoology.com to learn how they can help you advance what's possible. Thanks as always for listening. Stay awesome. See you soon.